Hey, what's going on? You know who it is. You know what it is. All right, you guys, peep game. All right, man. So, great video by Too Raw for TV, and he talked about Isaiah Thomas, and I went and looked this up myself. And one thing about Isaiah Thomas, the thing is with Isaiah Thomas, a lot of stuff he say has some validity to it, but then some of the stuff based off his history and due to the fact that a lot of people just didn't like Isaiah Thomas. And I think to a certain degree, Isaiah Thomas brought it on himself with the bad boys, Pistons, of the 80s. Because they took on the black hat, the villainous team. They sort of was like doing what Floyd Mayweather started to do when he went from Pretty Boy Floyd to Floyd Money Mayweather. So they took on this persona as being the dark horse team, the being the heels of the NBA. They embraced it, and with everything comes a price. So a lot of people didn't like their style of play, even though it was other teams that pretty much did the same thing they did. But to a certain degree, they embraced it. They wanted to have a reputation for being a team that played hard and dirty, whatever you want to call it. So, at the end of the day, to a certain degree, they paid a stiff price for it. And then keep in mind the same thing with Isaiah Thomas. Like I said, getting back to his personality, everybody remembers that Eastern Conference Finals where basically they was eliminated by the Chicago Bulls, and Isaiah Thomas then walked out of there, didn't want to shake their hands. Now, you heard their version of the story about why they didn't do it, and it's really up to you whether you believe that or not. It's really up to you. I have my interpretation and my thoughts on it. I've shared that in other videos. Maybe I'll do another video. So, am I saying that it's capped a little bit? Probably so. But Isaiah Thomas believes that his Pistons teams don't get enough credit for what they contribute to the game of basketball and what they did. He says, hey, I beat Magic Johnson in the finals. I beat Larry Bird to go to the finals. I beat those Chicago Bulls team, prevented them from going to the finals for a few years. And he has a point. But like I said, one of the reasons I think why Isaiah Thomas, like I said, don't get the credit he deserves is because, like I said, a lot of people didn't like Isaiah Thomas. And that's just fact. Now, it's all speculation who made sure Isaiah Thomas didn't play on the first Dream Team, but for the most part, we all know it was Michael Jordan. And I know people tried to say it was Magic Johnson. It was Michael Jordan. We all know it was. And Magic Johnson pretty much kind of excluded himself from it. He kind of hinted that he might have said something about Isaiah Thomas being on that team, but we all know it was the other MJ, whose last name, is Jordan. And that's just fact. Okay? That's just fact. Michael Jordan refused to play on the Dream Team if Isaiah Thomas was part of it. Did I think Isaiah Thomas should have been on there? Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's another thing that I think hampered his career and kind of put a little bit of a black cloud around his Hall of Fame career, because, like I said, some of the stuff that happened with Isaiah Thomas is self-inflicted. They relished off of that. And keep in mind, Isaiah Thomas also had a reputation for being a snake. The situation with Adrian Dentley. And John Sally has said some interesting things about Isaiah Thomas and some of his teammates. So, this is the reason why I think Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons don't get the credit that you can make a legitimate argument they deserve. Because I always thought of, when everybody was talking about the Celtics and the Lakers, I always thought about those Detroit Pistons teams. those Milwaukee Buck teams and stuff, even those 76ers teams. But the problem was when the NBA had to deal with CBS, they mostly only showed the Lakers, the 76ers, and the Celtics mostly. Every once in a while they would show, some other teams. Occasionally they would show the Rockets. Occasionally they would show, some of the other teams. But mostly they showed the teams that I just talked about until Michael Jordan came. Then when Michael Jordan came, you started to see the Chicago Bulls more and more and more, because that was the whole idea. David Stern pretty much built the NBA around Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan, for the most part, which I think to a certain degree kind of was a big mistake, because it took people years to accept the fact that Michael Jordan went from being Air Jordan to just Michael Jordan. Even after, 2 retirements. Or 3, if you want to be honest. And I think the same thing is starting to happen with LeBron, and I think some of his fans are in denial. But whatever. You're going to see for yourself. But that's my thoughts on the whole Isaiah Thomas thing. I do think that the Pistons should get more credit. But I do think a lot of it is because of some of the things Isaiah Thomas has said, some of the things he's done, some of the things you've heard about him. So that's the problem. Yeah, they do deserve to be in that conversation. Because, like I said, they were shown on CBS. But you didn't see them as much as you would see the Lakers and the Celtics and the 76ers. As Michael Jordan came into the league, then they started showing the Pistons more and more. I'm just keeping it a buck. I just remember, because even though I was very little then, and here's my thing, I had no horse in the race because I'm in California. My team was the Warriors. And we all know that the Warriors pretty much, except for a couple of seasons in the 80s, maybe 3 at best, the Warriors were just god awful. That's just fact. They just wasn't that good. Despite some of the players that they had, from Previs Short to Bernard King, Sleepy Floyd, they just, then you had coaches undermining, people that came in to be GMs undermining coaches, so Warriors had a lot of issues. But then, like I said, getting back to the whole Isaiah Thomas thing, I think he makes a legitimate point. But I think, like I said, a lot of this, some people will see it as sour grapes. And then some people will say, hey, Isaiah, you brought this on yourself. You wanted to have this persona as, the bad boys, the villains of the NBA. So this comes with the territory. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. This your boy Town Biz. I'm out.